What's up, my devil? Sensei-tutum here with another video for you. Got another week of ETH goodness for you. And if I were ever going to do a different asset to this week, would have been the week, because I left you last week. As you see, I had this arrow up here. At first, I showed you the triangle count that I think that pretty strongly that it's going to break to the downside. And then I said, hey, maybe I'm totally wrong next week and we're all the way up here. Well, worst case scenario, boys, we've gotten back to this week and we haven't broken out. So let us go ahead and sort of do the analysis on the E wave to see if we've potentially have a potential completion for the triangle, or let's see if we have potential alternatives to whether or not this might break to the upside. We'll go ahead and delete all of this old news because we're not going to live in the past. We're going to live today. Yeah, so as you saw here, we had a multiple zigzag to this level, and then zigzag, 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 and it looks like to me potential zigzag completed here. Last week there was a bit, I just sort of left the D, and then the E was thrown just about in a, just hey, maybe over here somewhere. You saw it was about where my cursor is now, but I thought that there was a potential for something more complex in here, like an E triangle. That doesn't seem to have played out. We'll look at this more closely. And there was a little bit of intricacy within rules and guidelines last week that we talked about in last week's video. Went into depth on that, and some tweaks that I've made as what I would say, which I do not do lightly. I take close consideration before doing any such thing, because I do believe that the rules and guidelines put forth by EWI are by far the very best way to apply this theory profitably. So when if I do make a tweak to their rules and guidelines, I do it take it very seriously. Now, if you're unsure what I'm talking about, or you don't know these rules and guideline things when I bring them up, you're like, I don't know what he means by that. Well, if you're watching this video, you should know that I am part of Trade Devils, right? I am a sensei there where I teach and I do educational content. And that's the entire reason that I do these videos, to show you guys that I have this, that we can do this educational thing for you. And of course, we have social tier as well. But if you do watch these videos and you take any interest in them whatsoever, you should know that we have a free white belt course that, we have the course that takes you from white belt, like the belts in jiu-jitsu, white all the way through black, 0 to hero. And so that uses all of our analysis techniques, not just Elliott Wave, but that Elliott Wave is a core concept there, so you get tons of Elliott Wave material. And I would say personally, I think that it's the best, most accurate material out there. I think it's put together better than anybody else's, and we use Elliott Wave Institutes International. I always get that messed up, and people say something in the comments, so why don't you just go ahead and plop it on down there and tell me which one it is. But yeah, you would think that if I have their master analyst designation, I should know what they're called, but don't care. Who cares? The only reason I have that is to show you guys that I have it, right? That's the only reason I went and got it, I should say. Anyway, I digress. Check out the free belt system, and we have the sweet PDF cheat sheets that come with that. When you join, you get so much, and you have the awesome community. And the cheat sheets are basically every single pattern with rules and guidelines. Of course, they can't be fully encompassing as a one-page thing, but and there's a lot of people that offer those as well. Ours are free, and they're better. Free and better. Check it out. All right, so that's my shameless plug for the week. As you guys know, that's why I do this. Again, I don't want to be Twitter famous, so you got to take a plug every once in a while. So this, what concerns me is that I would want to call this a finished zigzag to here. What concerns me is the subwave structure of this wave. And if we remember that back in the day, back here, I had this as a potential impulse in play, where we ended up truncating, came down to here. That's why I felt strongly that we would not create a new low relative to this, and we were able to profitably, let's say, act profitably based on that, even though we weren't exactly correct. And as you saw, I previously had this labeled as a multiple zigzag, so that still ended in truncation there. And the big discrepancy became, okay, this what I had previously said was a wave 3, and I was sort of turning a blind eye to the subwave structure based on right look at the larger degree. It's something that I'll do. That's a higher level concept, and you can use that to your detriment. And in this moment, I did, right? Because this does seem a lot clearer to be sort of a 3-wave look, right? So yeah, that's a thing. And I say that did it bit me in the butt down here, but I will do that quite often, to be honest, because if I'm unsure on the subwave structure, I won't just throw a label on it to be, you know, in this instance, it kind of stood out. So this was a bad way of applying it. But like it does stand out here that this sort of looks 3-wave, right? But maybe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I mean, it really does look 3-wave. So what you would have to do is, and you easily can, is that you would have to call this a 3-wave as well, right? That it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, A, B, or no, it would probably be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C. So it would be a multiple zigzag, but I'm just gonna leave it as a zigzag because I don't care. W, X, Y, zigzags and zigzags and zigzag. Now, the other option is that, you know, of course, it was just, you know, 1 or A, B, you know, B, some sort of sideways style that got funky in here. I'm just not going to get down on that level. So this is where I'll do it again. I just don't care about the subwave structure because I have a right look at the larger degree, and I'm just not interested at that lower of a degree, especially considering context, right? Coffee. So yeah, I'm happy to call it this. If we are wrong, what happens if we're wrong? Well, because we have, I would say, we'll draw from the orthodox top. We have broken out of this downtrend line. This would be what you would call an overthrow. We'll go ahead and throw this back. Get rid of that. This would be what an overthrow of the E. Overthrows that trend line. It's a funky trend line anyway because, you know, we'd have to extend it all the way back to here to get our PTT, which is where we would get our post-triangle thrust calculations for the, you know, the thrust after the triangle. And you would take it from the origin, of course. So you'd be surprised how many people don't know that. Yeah, that's how you measure that. So take note. Let's see. Draw this bad boy. Base trend channel on this move, whether it be a multiple zigzag or a zigzag, don't care. Are we breaking below, or am I drawing this trash? Let's see, anything that I draw here, do please go back and be sure to do yourself, because a lot of times in the videos I throw it on there and I'm not as let's say I'm not as precise and careful as I should be, because as you can see, we're right in that area of, because if we're below this and this is a completed zigzag here, we break below this area, I'm looking to short. Where? No, I'm not trying to play the whole big ass triangle. I mean, I'm a trend trader. But two, look at this. We're sideways. You've said this is, no, this is a trend. The trend is sideways. This trend is 3 move, 3 move, 3 move, 3 move, 3 move. So what am I going to do? 3 move internal. So I would not be projecting for external move here, even though I do have that kind of the large degree, but that's not my trading degree, right? So should I break down here, retest, reject? I'll probably look to short, you know, and the most aggressive target would probably be right back down to this lower trend line POC area. Anyway, that's the trader in me, but that's not really what I'm supposed to talk about in these videos, but I can't help it. Anyway, yeah, so that's what I would be looking at in that regard. Now, if I'm wrong, I guess the most likely scenario would be that we're doing something like this. Now, even if you are wrong, like this is not nearly a big enough for large enough magnitude. And see, you can't even like use probable expectation at all. Spring is here, boys. Clear the pollen. Clear the pollen. Sorry about that. All right, so you can't even use probable expectation because it would be so atypical. If it were some sort of 1, 2, 3 This is quite short. To get the large enough for it, you'd almost assuredly overlap. It just seems quite unlikely. And what would draw us to this being an impulse here? It would be that we would go back to this being a truncated fifth wave as opposed to a truncated Y wave, or truncated C of Y wave, really, which does fit much better as truncated C of Y wave. There it goes there. It would be more of an impulse and not a sideways, right? And then what would we have into it? We would have 3 down, 3 up. So basically, it would have to be some sort of crazy running flat that, and I don't even want to get all caught up into this. People get so caught up into the designations of the different types of flat, and I think that's such a waste of effort. And let's just say no one has told you to do that either, but yet you do it anyway. I don't want to get too much into the details on that, but yeah, educational section of the Discord is very useful. Let's just put it that way. But we're going from the orthodox here, but even I would really more like to meet the rules and guidelines from this extreme price extreme as opposed to the orthodox. Just feel good about it, but it would have to be that this is a really weird running flat, and then you have a really weird impulse playing off it. So if I'm wrong, that's what it is that I can see, and it's really not a viable expectation in my eyes. It's really low potential chance. And one thing I hate about that, and this is basically why I sort of said last week, maybe it'll pop all the way up to this high level, and I'm totally wrong, is that when you don't see great alternatives, when I don't see great alternatives, like viable alternatives, that means I feel like I'm missing what potentially might be staring me right in the face. Because generally I always see many alternatives and at least one viable alternative. And then I can feel strongly like, okay, I can feel better because I see that potential outcome, right? I feel like I'm missing a potential outcome when I don't see that. So I don't have a good viable outcome, a good viable Elliott Wave type of scenario that breaks up to the upside here. And I can tell you from a Wyckoff perspective that there are some hints of potential turning into accumulation, but because a lot of times in these sideways, as I always like to say, I suck at triangles, so that's where I really start to use my Wyckoff. But I always use Wyckoff, always. But this is where I start to actually consider Wyckoff patterns as opposed to just other facets of it. That's training material that's coming, boys. How sensei-tutum uses Wyckoff with Elliott Wave, how I use it. Sip the old coffee here. Help me lubricate the brain muscle before I dump off here, because I'm really thinking that's where I'm leaving you this week, is that, I'm feeling pretty strongly that this does break to the downside, even though we have broken above resistance here. So now we're consolidating. Well, we haven't consolidated yet, but I imagine we will consolidate some above support. We got to get back below this. The longer we remain above, the more my eyebrow will start to race. But yeah, I think that's it for this week, fellas. Next week, we should have some external price discussions, but you never know. These things, all patterns can extend. Triangles are no different. So yeah, we'll see next week. But I think that's it for this week. I do still think that we break to the downside, and yeah, trade safe, fellas. Use this as an anchor. Members, check out the anchoring. Non-members, sign up for free membership. Look into the cheat sheets. Look into the white belt course. Realize what triangles mean, how you can use them to anchor. All right, boys, toot out.